Long before Hollywood turned it into a blockbuster, before the cameras, the screams, and the special effects, there was a house. A house that stood alone on Round Top Road, in the quiet countryside of Rhode Island. It looked ordinary at first glance. A colonial farmhouse, weathered wood, paint peeling, windows staring like empty eyes. But inside, the Perron family would encounter something that could not be explained. Carolyn Perron, the mother, felt it first, cold fingers brushing her arm as she slept. The dog refused certain rooms, growling at invisible threats. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Doors slammed without reason. Drawers opened on their own. And the children, they whispered of someone watching, someone waiting. This is not the movie. This is the real house. The old Arnold estate. The farmhouse that still stands today. The events that happened here were recorded in journals, described in interviews, and written in the book House of Darkness, House of Light by Andrea Perron. And in the next 15 minutes, you will see the Perrons' story. A story far stranger, far more terrifying, and far closer to reality than what you saw on the screen. If you dare to follow every creak, every shadow, every secret hidden in the walls, stay with me. Because the truth, the real haunting, is waiting for you inside. As the parents stepped inside, a sudden chill swept over them. The air was heavy, carrying the scent of old wood and damp earth. Dust motes floated in the sunlight, but even in the brightness, shadows lingered unnaturally in corners, stretching along the walls like dark fingers. The children tiptoed across the warped floorboards, their laughter uneasy, daring one another to explore farther. But laughter soon gave way to whispers. "There's someone behind the door," one of the girls said, her voice trembling. They froze. No one was there, only the stillness and the faint scraping sound, like nails on wood, that seemed to follow them from room to room. Doors slammed shut on their own, repeatedly. Drawers opened and closed without a hand. The parents tried to rationalize old house noises, they said, but the sounds came at odd hours, sometimes in the dead of night, when the house should have been completely empty. By the end of the first week, Carolyn noticed scratches on the walls and furniture. They appeared overnight, with no explanation. Every small movement, every sound, seemed deliberate, as if the house itself was alive, testing the family, reminding them they were never truly alone. Even during the day, the parents felt the weight of the house. Windows would rattle without wind. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Carolyn sometimes woke with a sense of invisible fingers on her arm, a chill crawling up her spine. And the children, they were afraid to be alone, afraid to sleep, afraid to exist in rooms where unseen eyes watched them constantly. Days turned into weeks, and the strange activity only grew more relentless. Footsteps paced above their heads, whispering voices floated through empty kitchens, and cold drafts slithered down the hallways, carrying faint hints of decay. At night, small objects flew across rooms, chairs toppled, lamps shattered, and the children woke screaming, claiming someone had touched them in their sleep. Carolyn tried to maintain some sense of normalcy, cooking, cleaning, caring for her 5 daughters, but every night, she awoke with a weight on her chest, sometimes finding bruises and scratches on her arms or legs. The family quickly realized rational explanations could not account for the patterns of these events. Unlike the movie, there were no cinematic demons flying through the air. The horror was quieter, slower, psychological, persistent, and exhausting. The parents documented everything meticulously. Times, locations, sensations, as if mapping the house's moods to survive. Certain rooms became avoided zones. Certain hours became dreaded hours. A faint scratching, the dragging of unseen furniture, the sense of being watched, all became daily rituals of terror. And yet, life went on. School, chores, meals, everything continued under the heavy shadow that the house cast over them. The children's laughter grew rarer. Playtime was short and nervous. Sleep became a calculated activity. Who would stay awake to watch the hallways? Who would brave a room alone? Even the dog refused to cross certain thresholds, barking lowly at empty corners. Fear had become a presence itself, tangible and constant, more suffocating than any shadow on the wall. By the end of the second month, the Perrons knew they were not alone. Every sound, every cold breeze, every inexplicable movement of objects reinforced a single truth. The house itself was alive, aware, and unkind, and no one in the family could explain why they were being chosen, or how long this torment would last. The basement, a place that would become the heart of the Perrons. Terror. Narrow, cold, stone walls dripping with moisture. Tools left on the shelves sometimes fell without warning, and the temperature dropped sharply as soon as anyone stepped inside. Carolyn felt a weight in her chest here, as though the house was pressing down on her, warning her to leave. It was in this basement that the Warrens first visited the family. Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators, arrived to document the events, to witness the activity firsthand. But in reality, their visits were brief. They never moved in, nor did they conduct a full exorcism. Even so, Lorraine sensed a dark presence, a force targeting Carolyn specifically, testing her courage, her fear, and her sanity. The movie dramatized their presence, expanding their role to fill suspenseful scenes. In reality, their observations were shorter, but the Perrons insist the presence was real, persistent, and threatening. And then there was Bathsheba Sherman, the historical figure woven into legend and into the movie's mythology. She lived in the nearby town during the 19th century. Local tales called her a witch, blaming her for tragedies and dark deeds, but there is no official evidence she practiced witchcraft, harmed children, or cursed the land. Yet the Perrons consistently reported a female spirit, a dark, malicious presence that seemed to target Carolyn. This is where history, legend, and reality intertwine. The movie took Bathsheba's name and exaggerated her actions. The truth? A woman who lived decades earlier became the symbol of the terror the family experienced in their home. Local historians confirm Bathsheba existed, but nothing in official records supports the idea she was a witch. The Perron haunting, however, was very real, with evidence documented in journals, interviews, and Andrea Perron's book. The basement, the Warrens, brief visits, the female presence, all set the stage for months of escalating terror. The family documented every event, every sensation, every inexplicable occurrence. And yet, the questions remained. Why them? Why this house? Why this force? The answers, if they exist, remain buried in the walls of the old Arnold estate. Nightfall brought no relief. The darkness seemed to thicken, pressing against the walls, invading every corner. Footsteps pounded along the upper floors, echoing through the hallways as if someone or something was pacing above the family's heads. Objects moved on their own. Chairs toppled, lamps shattered, doors slammed with a force that shook the wooden floors. Carolyn Perron sometimes awoke to the feeling of hands gripping her arms or shoulders. Bruises appeared overnight, unexplained, fresh in the morning light. The children would wake screaming, claiming invisible figures had pulled blankets from their beds or whispered their names in voices they could not recognize. Flying across rooms, the real events were slower, more insidious. The terror was psychological, persistent, and cumulative. The Perrons documented everything meticulously, noting every unexplained event and sensation. Certain nights became unbearable. Cold drafts carved paths through the house, carrying faint smells of decay and earth. Whispering voices taunted the children from empty corners. The mother's sleep became a battlefield. The children's dreams, a fragile place where they tried to survive the unseen assailant. And always, there was a sense of being observed, tested, haunted not by a spirit in the traditional sense, but by a malevolent presence that seemed almost intelligent. By the third month, the house had become an entity of its own, its rhythm dictating the family's life. Sleep schedules, chores, and meals, all bent to the timing of the haunting. Every creak, every shadow, every cold gust of air was a reminder. The house was alive, and it had chosen its victims. And yet, the Perrons endured. They recorded. They survived. They bore witness. And it is their testimony that allows us to see, behind the cinematic spectacle, the terrifying truth. Real horror doesn't always make a noise. Sometimes, it watches, waits, and slowly, patiently, drives its victims to the edge. As the haunting reached its peak, the Perrons sought help. The Warrens arrived with their equipment, not to stay, but to observe, document, and intervene when necessary. In the movie, this scene explodes with cinematic tension. Objects flying, screams echoing, the demon revealed. In reality, the Warrens' visits were measured, brief, and observant. Yet the impact on the family was profound. Carolyn felt a shift the moment Lorraine entered the house. The air seemed heavier, darker, yet slightly more contained, As if the presence recognized another observer, Lorraine noted a force that specifically targeted Carolyn, a dark intelligence watching every action, every breath.
One monster.
But the family experienced intense psychological and physical manifestations. Bruises, scratches, sudden noises, and constant anxiety. Every visit by the Warrens brought both relief and fear, a temporary reprieve in a months-long ordeal. The source of the haunting remained the same, a female spirit, historically connected to Bathsheba Sherman. Though records show she never harmed anyone in life, the Perrons' experiences turned her into a symbol of malevolence. The family documented everything meticulously, providing historians and paranormal investigators with detailed accounts of dates, times, sensations, and interactions with the unseen. In the months that followed, the activity gradually decreased. The Perrons left the house, but the shadows, the whispers, the scratches remained recorded in their memories and journals. The house still stands today, a silent witness to the events that inspired The Conjuring, yet infinitely more terrifying because the terror was lived, not scripted. This is where legend, history, and horror intersect. The cinematic version captures the thrill, but the truth lies in the slow, relentless pressure of a haunted house, the terror that lingers in shadows, and the courage of a family who endured it. And now, knowing the real story, the question remains, would you dare spend a night in the old Arnold estate? If this story unsettled you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Subscribe to Whispers Beyond Archives for more true hauntings, hidden history, and the stories that refuse to stay buried. Because some houses don't just hold memories, they remember you.